They'll look at the pegs and they're like, whoa, that's kind of weird. And then they immediately go to the sprocket and they're like, whoa, that's a cool looking sprocket. And then they see the platform and they're like, well, okay, what the heck's going on? So this is a Trident. The platform is actually not part of the frame structure. I still want the strength of that double dyno. There are also the locking levers, which is pretty sweet. A locking lever allows you to lock the brake in its brake position. It's a scary contraption, but it is really fun when you get to use it correctly. First ever tie that I put on my bike, which is these tie bolts. These are the Park Rat pegs. I love them, they're awesome. The reason why I have the salmon black combo is because I want my brakes to stop, but I also want them to slide in the front. So when I'm doing backwards nose wheelies, scuffing, whatever, I can actually feather my brake.
Why do you set it up this way?
Because I never wanted the bike to hold me back from what I wanted to do.
So here we are in the studio with none other than Trevor Watring.
What's up, guys?
Just got home from the Middle of Nowhere contest and Trevor's hanging out for the day. Thought it'd be fun since he got some new parts from Carl's bike shop to put them on and do a little bit of a different style bike check where we're upgrading the bike while also talking about the rest of the bike at the same time. And if you didn't know it, Trevor is a part of Tech Bike Co. So I thought it'd be good to start with the Tech Bike Co. frame. So tell me a little bit about your frame as well as the Trident frame itself.
Okay, so this is a Trident. It comes in two different styles. So we have the Trident and the Clone. It's the exact same geometry, except one has a platform and one does not. So the Clone doesn't have a platform, the Trident has the platform.
Yep.
My bike has a 20-inch top tube for freestyle and flatland. So this 20-inch top tube, it is 75-degree head tube, 11.5 bottom bracket height, 71-degree seat tube, 13.25 to 13.75 rear end, and the standover is 8.5. So it's a pretty middle-of-the-road frame.
Yeah.
Anyone can jump on it with that doing any different style and get comfortable with it pretty quick.
How does a 20-inch top tube affect your flatland? Like, why do you need something shorter?
So I dabbled before I got with John Courts and making these frames. I rode a Colony Prody, awesome frame, but it was 20.5, and when I would do decades and other things on the ramp, like let's say tire tap decade over like a spine or something, it felt like I was jumping kind of like over the Eiffel Tower. You know, it just felt massive to jump over. So, and then I played with a 20, and it was a total hangover at 20, and it was like perfect. It was like a perfect mix. So I was like, okay, that's the top tube that I need.
Yeah, so like bringing everything closer to the back, like how does that come into play when you're doing the different types of flatland things that you do?
So normally if I was just going to do a flatland specific frame, I would go probably no bigger than 19.75 or 19.5. And I'm tall, but you want a smaller frame so that way when you're stepping over from the back pegs that your crotch has enough room to do stuff like over top. So when you're doing like a walkover decade, you have plenty of room to step over. And when you have a shorter wheelbase, when you're standing in certain positions on the bike, let's say you're doing like a half lash to whatever, you're standing, you know, this far away instead of, you know, this far away, and it makes your stance and your stance more strong. It makes it strong. Stronger stance when you're like closer together.
That makes sense. And so you kind of combined the flat with everything else in this frame here.
Yeah, so this is like, I mean, I only have one frame, so I try to make it do everything. It's not ideal for everything, but it fits what I do. So
yeah, it's good for all types of riding, like outside of flatland.
Yeah.
And then you just made the top tube size the best you could for the flatland element.
Yes.
And then you also added in a little thing right there.
The platform?
Yeah.
So the platform, what's really cool about this, and it's different than any other frame that's on the market right now is, one, this is all double-butted tubing. John uses a little thicker tubing as well than most other people just because he's comfortable with that. It's around a 5-pound frame, but I feel like a 5-pound frame is a solid frame that's going to last you a long time. So when you spend $530 on the frame, that's a lot. I want that frame to last somebody at least 3 to 4 years, even if they ride really, really hard.
Yeah. And then you added a platform to it too.
Yeah, so the platform is actually not part of the frame structure, which most frames with platforms are. And I told John specifically I wanted it as like an add-on because I still want the strength of that double diamond. It's the perfect frame. I mean, it's the perfect mock-up for whatever.
And most times when you see a platform on a frame, it's part of those seat stay tubes.
Yes. And I've noticed having frames like that, I mean, I had a Sabbath, which that thing will go through a nuclear war and be fine. But so when I had that custom standard, I noticed it was cracking right here. And it was when I was learning tail whips and stuff, like really being hard on the frame. And that constant hitting motion, that twisting motion, it wanted to try to rip itself off the top tube. And I just didn't want that issue to happen.
Yeah, so that being totally separate of the frame structure allows it to not... It's a normal frame, and then you have an added thing to it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So what else do we have here?
We also have a triple guide on it. And if you notice here on the triple guide, it is angled to where your brake cables go right nice with this. It doesn't drag on the adjuster. So and that's one of the little things that makes it just that much better. Also, with this gusset in the front, when you're doing flatland or foot jams or whatever in the front, you have that much more clearance than a normal frame. That's why I wanted this gusset on there.
That's pretty sweet. So what's the first part we're going to put on today?
Let's just go with the seat. Let's go with the seat. It's pretty beat up.
You can't really tell, but
yeah. So I was doing a rocket over a box jump and wasn't thinking and missed my pedals coming back, and I sat on the seat super hard, so like it's kind of broke. So I kind of needed a new one there, and plus it's getting beat up and stained from my pants.
Yeah, but the stain matches, so like you have to do that again.
Yeah, it will.
But you like the seat, so
yeah,
while we were out at Carl's, you got another one.
Yeah. And then this will be the first tie part that I ever put on my bike. I've never ran tie before.
Let's not say what it is yet. Let's leave it as a surprise.
Okay. But I've
never ran tie.
Never ran tie stuff, anything before, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, so stay tuned for the tie. But yeah, let's throw the seat on there.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Park Tool with the 6mm. You like using this seat though? The wider.
Yeah, for like suicides and stuff, it just makes life so much easier because it's got a nice hook on it. And there's not a lot of seats on the market right now that have a really nice hook. I know that doesn't matter for most people, but when you find a seat that you really like, you kind of stick with it.
Yeah, I mean that's why a lot of people love the Mira Tribute seats that you can't get anymore.
Yes.
And honestly, that's part of where the Alienation seat even came from.
Yeah.
And just noticing a need for something like that. I mean, can you hold that so you see the shape of it?
Yeah. So when you're doing a suicide, you can pinch and you'll feel it actually lock in.
Yeah.
That's the cool part about a seat that's like wide like this in the back.
Yeah.
So when you feel it, you're like, okay, I know I'm at the tip, and then boom, it's locked. I know that was kind of funny to say, but that's basically what you're gonna do. When you start to pinch, it's here, and then you know it's gonna lock in.
Yeah.
Without question. Also, I like the hand grips.
Oh yeah.
The front hand grip and the back hand grip. So when you're doing steamrollers or you're doing Carl Cruisers, you have that grip right there, which makes it really nice for flat.
Yeah, let's toss it a little.
I got the stealth seat post, so it's kind of weird to. It was the longest seat post I could find at Chenga.
Yeah. I had the exact same one on a
I
bike
had to
too.
deal with it first.
Yeah. It's honestly funny to see the difference in color between the old one and this one. To get started.
There we go. I'll adjust the angle later.
Yep.
Because with the stealth post, it's a little harder.
Your hand on a bike stand.
Yeah.
Got the seat on. Tell me a little bit about the post and clamp we're working with.
So this is a Cinema stealth seat post. It was really the longest one I could find at Chenga. I needed a seat post. I bent my other one, so I just threw that on there. Plus it was chrome, so it's kind of hard to find that as well. And then I have a Nowhere seat clamp, which is actually a really cool design if you run a high seat. The top clamp part actually clamps to the seat post itself, and then the bottom clamps to the frame. When you actually put this on right, your seat is never going to spin on you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I guess we could just go to the back end now, I guess. It doesn't really matter. What do you want to tell me about now?
Okay, so I run the Alienation Venus hub. It's a planetary hub, free coaster. It comes with a plastic drive side guard, but I had to put a metal one on there because I'm a little more aggressive than normal on it. And then it also comes with the non-drive side guard, which is pretty cool. I got the Nowhere pegs. These are the Park Rat pegs. I love them. They're awesome. And they're thick. They feel strong. And
Also
they last a long
super
time.
light.
Yeah, and they're very light.
Yeah. What else on your wheel?
I'm running the G Sport bird cage in chrome. Very hard to find, but luckily I found them. And then I got Maxxis Grifter.
I want to ask, how does having a planetary hub work with flatland? Obviously, with your park riding and stuff, it works well with what you do, but I feel like it'd be cool to hear a little bit of that insight in regard to the flat side of things.
I really like not having a lot of slack. Most flatlanders do. They love a lot of slack. So, but for me, when you have little slack like that, when you're doing like a half cab to peg wheelie or certain tricks, you want to be able to stomp on that pedal and go, at least for me. So like when I'm doing a decade or whatever, I want to be able to stomp on the pedal and immediately start pedaling forward. Where certain flatlanders, they like all that slack, so because they don't want to engage it, but it won't engage anyway. So, and they also don't like the clicking. They're real weird about the clicking. Their bike makes no noise and they love it.
So, but it's good for you.
But it's awesome for me.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love it.
So I suppose we could move forward now a little bit. What's next? So
we have an Odyssey Evo 2 with the Cool Stop pads. They're the flat pads, and they're the clear. They stop on a dime.
You like your brakes locking up.
Yeah.
You do a decade, you want it to stop.
Exactly. So that's definitely necessary. Odyssey Bluebird chain. I've always ran an Odyssey Bluebird chain. Always, always, always. I don't know why. Just it's what I've always bought. Tried and true. So this is a Paragon sprocket, 25 tooth. And he sent me this to test it out, and it rides really well, actually.
What do you think about the look of it? It's obviously way different than any other sprocket.
So many compliments on the frame. Like, they'll look at the pegs and they're like, whoa, that's kind of weird. And then they immediately go to the sprocket and they're like, whoa, that's a cool looking sprocket. And then they see the platform and they're like, well, okay, what the heck's going on? You know? But yeah, the sprocket gets a lot of compliments.
That's cool. You like it?
Yeah, it works perfect for what I do.
Sweet.
Then we have the Odyssey Thunderbolts, which I love, and I like how light they are and strong. Running the Shadow, I don't even know what kind of Shadow pedals these are.
Shadow pedals.
They're just Shadow pedals.
What crank length do you have?
This is 1.65.
Yeah, 165s.
Yeah. And
is there any particular reason or thing that helps with, like, in terms of your park or flatland?
It helps. One, I'm not very good at tail whips, so it kind of keeps my feet more closer together, so when I clamp, it's kind of right there. Also, when I'm doing scuffing, so like squeakers and stuff, it's just that much further out of the way, so my foot doesn't hit it.
Yeah, nice.
And yeah.
And so we actually have another part to put on your bike at this point, and it kind of goes with the cranks, doesn't it? What do we got? What we got over there?
You got your slow your roll, nowhere. It's basically like a little clutch system, and you put it in between your spacer here, or you use it as a spacer, and it presses against it, pressing against your bearings, slowing your cranks down so they don't do like 40 crank flips.
So we're actually going to film putting this on as a separate video. So go watch that if you want the in-depth. But what you're about to see is kind of the cliff notes real quick for this video version of it.
So it comes with 2 clutch plates.
Slow your roll goes on. Oh,
Look at that.
look at that. Nowhere slow your roll is installed.
Oh yeah. That's
You
nice.
stoked? Because I know you were kind of like iffy about the way they were before.
Yeah, I didn't like it. Just because I run my chain a little loose, so I like it to pedal smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather pedal smooth than worry about the cranks flipping, but they were getting to be an issue, and I couldn't tighten this anymore to get it to like switch together. So this thing's actually really sweet. I'm actually stoked on this.
Nice. Moving forward here to the front end, let's talk a little bit about what you got in the bar end grip front end department.
Okay, so we have the Nowhere Tuck U bars.
What size you ride?
These are 9.5. And then I cut them down actually to about 27. These are the Tech 77 levers. They're also the locking levers, which is pretty sweet.
You do locking lever tricks. For anyone who may have no idea what that even means, explain a locking lever.
Okay, so a locking lever allows you to lock the brake as it's in its brake position.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really cool for like abubica tricks or fufanu tricks. You can do bar spins, you can do suicides, you can do very different tricks than everybody else.
So you're telling me that in an abubica you can take both hands off?
Oh yeah.
With that lever, yeah.
Yeah.
So like just, you don't have to lock it or anything, but just, can you put your hand in lever position and just show?
Okay, so if you're going to use the locking lever, this is the best method. So you're going to use your 2 fingers there, and then you're going to push it in. And I can actually lock it for you guys so you can see. Now, it is kind of more difficult to set up. You have to keep all these cables tight and nice. And then this adjuster right here, or you can use this adjuster if you don't have this adjuster, but you have to keep this part of the cable loose.
Yeah.
So because as right now, as it's nice and tight, I can't lock the lever because the lever has to go to the grip.
Yeah, it has to be pulled to a certain point to be able to lock.
Push the button.
Yep.
And to be able to push it smoothly.
Yeah.
So I have it set up to where if you loosen this all the way up, the brake, it gets sloppy, but it can pull all the way to the grip, if you could see that.
Yep.
So when you pull it all the way to the grip, you can push the button in, it locks it.
Well, sometimes.
Okay. And that's the thing too. That's what's scary is you don't know if it's going to lock or do that, or if you pulled it enough and pushed it in right.
Yeah.
So they're tricky. Now I can't get it to do it.
Tighten this one. Oh, you probably can't.
Yeah, no.
Jeez.
So they're...
So you do a bar spin or a abubica suicide, and it's just sitting like that.
Yeah.
Holding on for you.
Yeah, that's it. You just do your trick, suicide or bar spin or whatever. And then to release it, you pull it more.
Let me get in there.
And then unlocks it.
And then you can, yep.
But you have to make sure that you get back to your grip, pull it, you hear it unclick, and then you can go do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's a scary contraption, but it is really fun when you get to use it correctly.
Yeah. What grips and bar ends are we working with?
I always run the I always run ODIs.
Yeah.
And I flip the ODIs. So I run The regular ODIs, not soft, just regular ODIs, and I flip them so that it's smooth.
Oh, yeah, because those Tech 77s are a little bigger.
Yes.
And the end of the grip is a bit bigger on those.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So I don't cut my hand or anything on them.
Yeah.
And then these are the Paragon bar ends, which they're actually really cool. They have a little set screw right here.
Nice.
And they stay on pretty well.
Sweet. What cables you got?
Odyssey slicks, and then the Odyssey gyro cables.
Nice. Let's keep going. I believe we have another part to install.
Yep. So this is the Nowhere stem. Carl hooked me up with the first ever tie that I put on my bike, which is these tie bolts.
Let's go. The local bike shop titanium bolts that fit the Nowhere stem. I believe it's also the same as S&M stems.
Yes.
And you'll have to call Carl for any more questions of what might fit. But we're putting on tie bolts on this Nowhere stem. Now that your bar's moved, I'm curious, is there a specific spot do you put them?
I actually just feel it. Just sit on the seat and just grab it a few times and get it to where I feel like it's in the right spot and just tighten it
So
down.
it's nothing beyond just what feels right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Honestly.
That's perfect. Installed. What do you think?
I like it. We'll see how light it is. How much it actually takes off.
Right. So it's hard to look at your bike and not see a color scheme and the iciness of it. What is the color on your bars and your frame?
So this is called snow cone. It's prismatic powders.
Yep. It looks so good.
At first, when John got done with it and powder coated and it wasn't stickered, I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is the color I was going for. But as soon as it stickered it, I was like, you know what? It actually looks pretty cool.
Your whole bike just looks awesome. I still think you need white pedals, but...
I almost bought some at Carl's. I was really debating on it. I was like, nah, these ones are still good.
That's funny. Well, let's move down. So we got the stem all done and everything. Now, what do we go to from here?
Let's go with the gyro plate. So this is the only oil slick thing that I've ever had on my bike. And it's kind of a special thing because one of these, there was a rider that came to Changa, didn't speak English really at all. And I was talking with him and tried to work with him and row with him the whole day. And he was so stoked. He's like, you run brakes. I have something for you, wait. And he came over with this gyro plate and I've just never taken it off.
That's awesome.
So it's just cool. And I've seen him at multiple contests and events and stuff. And he's always like, oh, you're still running it. Yeah.
Well, I think everybody has their like sentimental parts on their bike that they'll always ride. Like for me, it's my bar ends. Everybody has something about their bike that is going to be that forever.
Yeah. And then we'll go down, we'll do Odyssey bearings, Odyssey gyro. This is actually the one with the bearings in it. It's a little more, it's a little stronger. Odyssey, I don't know if these are the Evo 2s.
They might be the 2.5, but they also might be the 2. I don't know.
Yeah. I broke them. No, actually they're 2.5s. Yeah. So they're the 2.5s with the Cool Stop Salmon Black combo. Now the reason why I have the Salmon Black combo is because I want my brakes to stop, but I also want them to slide in the front. So when I'm doing backwards nose wheelies, scuffing, whatever, I want them to not grip as much. I can actually feather my brake. Next, we're going on to the wheel set. It's kind of similar to the back. It's an Alienation.
It's the Illuminati.
The Illuminati with the plastic hub guards with the G Sport birdcage wheel. And then another little sentimental part on my bike is the little double valve cap.
You had that forever.
Yeah, it's nice.
What about, you got same pegs on the front, all
Yeah,
that?
same pegs in the front, the park rat pegs from nowhere.
We actually haven't talked about the tires yet, partially because these tires aren't the ones that are going to be on it. We have some new tires, but they are the same tires.
Yeah, the Maxxis Grifters. That's the tire that I've ridden for a very long time, and they work good park, street, flat, dirt. They work good for all of it.
Yeah, so I know Flatlanders have a lot of consideration in their tire size.
Yeah.
What size tires are you riding?
Normally, I would run a 1.85 or 1.95 because I like the ability to pump them up at a high PSI and be able to spin easier. So when you have a fatter tire, there's just more friction. You know, you have a skinnier tire pumped up a little harder, there's just less friction. So when you're riding flatland, you pivot easier, you can spin easier. Same when you're riding the ramp. You know, you can pivot easier and spin easier.
Yeah. So what do you ride now? Because they don't offer these in those sizes, right?
They do offer them, but they're really hard to find.
Yeah.
So I'm running the 210s, but there's not really that much difference between a 210 and a 1.85. Honestly, this is a 1.85 that's on here right now.
Huh.
And then this is a 210.
I wouldn't have even guessed that.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why really stress on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell now that you pointed that out, but
Yeah.
like, if I didn't look close, I never would have known.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's just by looks, and you can tell based on the feel, but...
Yeah, and honestly, there's not too much difference between those sizes, at least in this specific tire.
Nice. So with that, we have 2 new ones to put on, and we'll time lapse through that before we give you the wrap up final thoughts with Trevor's bike. New tires are installed.
Look at that.
I'm not going to pretend like it was fun.
It wasn't.
But I think we've kind of reached the end. You've got normal tubes in your tires.
Yep.
We talked about all of the parts. Those are all the new parts. But at this point, I want to hear, since we've heard everything, why you set it up the way you do between 2 brakes, 4 pegs, a high seat. You've got purpose-built bars. Why do you set it up this way?
Because I never wanted the bike to hold me back from what I wanted to do. If I wanted to do flatland, or I thought something was cool in flatland, I'd go do flatland. If I seen something cool tech-wise on the ramp, I wanted to be able to do it. And then obviously you can jump it and do whatever else. So that's kind of why I have my bike set up in this way.
That's a good answer. To be able to do everything or anything possible on a bike,
Yeah.
at any given time.
Yep. Any trick that looks cool or whatever, I didn't want it to hold me back. I wanted to be like, all right, let's go learn it.
That's awesome. Well, with that being said, you have a run of frames coming sometime in the coming months.
Yeah, sometime in September. We'll probably take pre-orders around July-ish.
Mm-hmm.
So look for that. It's going to be on our Instagram page and our Facebook page.
And you may even have a website at some point here.
Yeah, in the near future here, probably before those frames drop, we'll probably get the website ready to go. Also, sneak preview too, we might be coming out with these new handlebars.
Kind of like those, but way different.
Well, way different, yeah. So we'll keep some teasers out there. We'll throw some teasers out, see what you guys think about them. But it's in the works.
Awesome. So, Tech Bike Co., Trevor Watring, not the floor.
Oh, I was like,
And yeah, I'm stoked that we finally got Trevor's bike check on video. People have been asking for it. Here it is, and it's pretty warm in Ohio, so we might get to go ride.
yeah, we might before it rains.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Thanks
let's
for
get it.
watching, and follow Trevor and Tech Bike Co. See you next time. Goodbye.